And of course, many of you will be here tonight for the awards evening, where you can do a little bit more catching up. But for now, let's get on with this afternoon and introducing our next keynote speaker, who is Phillip Mills, the Executive Director of Les Mills. Phillip is one of the most respected leaders in the global fitness industry. Throughout the 1980s, he's transformed fitness for a generation of New Zealanders with the introduction of exercises to music and developed the Auckland gym established by his parents into a leading chain in New Zealand and also in Australia. In 1990, he created Body Pump, a weight training class that became the world's most popular group workout. Since then, he has built Les Mills International into the world's leading distributor of fitness classes across 120 countries. Phillip has also been a 40-year campaigner for the environment. Through the Les Mills companies and personally, he and his wife, Dr. Jackie Mills, have provided millions of dollars of support for a wide range of charitable causes and organisations. And not least, Phillip represented New Zealand in the 110 metres and 400 metre hurdles, reaching the Commonwealth Games finals in 1978 and achieving All-American status during a sports scholarship at UCLA. Before I invite Phillip to the stage, let's take a look at a short video.
This is a story about how to change the world. It is a story about an intergenerational journey towards a single idea. But like all great stories, it didn't begin in a marketing focus group or in the boardroom of a multinational corporation. This story begins around the dinner table of a modest family home in Auckland, New Zealand. Kiwi sports legend Les Mills had a simple plan: to bring his knowledge as a four-time Olympian and New Zealand's top national track and field coach to the people. So Les and his wife Colleen opened a small family gym, offering elite-level athletic training. Then their son returned home from college. And something remarkable happened. Phillip combined his father's elite athletic sports programs with group exercise set to music, and Les Mills Group Fit was born. Then Phillip met Jackie, and the family embarked on a life-changing journey. Body Pump is launched. Establishing a new experience in exercise and health. And within the decade, became the most popular group exercise on the planet. And as the number of programs grew, each one designed by dedicated expert program directors and forged from the most innovative sports science and Les Mills Senior's athletic legacy, Phillip and Jackie never forgot where the journey began. With family. Just like Phillip and Jackie did 20 years earlier, a new generation, along with the passionate and dedicated Les Mills team, are redefining the meaning of fitness for future generations to come. As the world went online, so too did Les Mills, with Les Mills Plus, to be voted #1 fitness app by USA Today. years in the making. From a small family gym at the bottom of the world to 110 countries around the world. One simple truth remains at the heart of the Les Mills family. Being healthy, fitter, and stronger makes the world a better place.
A remarkable story made right here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Can you please welcome to the stage Phillip Mills, Executive Director of Les Mills.
Hi everybody, thank you. It's lovely to be here with you, talking to you. Sport has been a huge part of my life. It was my life for much of that, and while going to the gym probably doesn't meet the technical definition of it being a sport, I think we share the same purpose of bringing people health and community and happiness, and I'm proud to be a part of this community. When I started working in my parents' gym, cleaning the locker rooms of the gym in 1968, going to the gym was just a tiny percentage of the population who did it, probably less than 1%, but we don't have stats from back then. In a study by Les Mills and Nielsen in a dozen industrialized countries, in 2019, just before the pandemic, 32% of adults went to some kind of a gym. So it's become a massive part of popular culture, and you won't necessarily see that in some of the stats that get reported about the fitness industry. The cohort that they tend to deal with, they go to gym owners and they say, how many members do you have? But of course, you know, that doesn't take into account all the different types of gyms, people who are going to Zumba classes or yoga classes in a school hall, or people who are working out in their university gym, or in a lot of your sports gyms and things like that. So with that study, Nielsen went to people and said, what do you do? You know, do you go to do you do any of these type of gym activities? So we think that's what it is. And there have been some big sociological drivers, I think, and this is stuff that just I believe, that have driven that growth over that sort of 50 plus years. I think that one of them is probably feminism, women wanting to get stronger and fitter. I think that another one is the awareness of the importance of exercise in dealing with modern sedentary lifestyle and diet. I think that another one is probably the fact that we're pack animals, and we're looking for ways to commune. You look at the rise of social media, and that stuff is obvious. And I think that a lot of the ways that we traditionally communed have maybe sort of become less, and going to the gym has become a big part of how that happens. And it's a particular type of communing. It's I'll steal this one from Shamabil, who's going to speak next. It's a lot of people with a shared purpose. And finally, I think probably time poorness. A lot of us have gotten busier and busier and have, unfortunately, less time to play traditional sports. It's kind of in and out of the gym. Even in the gym, sort of 30-minute classes and 40-minute classes have become the thing. People are so busy. And unfortunately, I think that going to the gym has probably lacked the camaraderie and the fun and excitement that traditional sports have had. And that's something that we've been trying to deal with. When I first started working on the gym floor in the 1970s, early 1970s, one of my jobs was, all we really had was like free weights, dumbbells and barbells, and old exercise bikes that were sort of air resistance, had a little speedometer on them. And one of my jobs was to go and give people magazines who were sitting on the bikes, because it was so boring. just keep it interesting. And over time, that's evolved. You know, we about 10 years after that, we had computerized bikes with a dial like that, and it was pretty pathetic, really. You'd get little dots on them, but people thought it was cool. You know, it was tech. And then about another 10 years later, we had cardio theatre. You could sit on your bike and you could watch the TV. And that was very exciting for people. And then in the 90s, spinning came out of South Africa, and that was sort of huge. That was like a room full of people doing bike classes and sort of motivating each other, the crowd energy, and a teacher, maybe a really motivating teacher up the front, and music, and all of those kind of things. And now, if you go to our Victoria Street gym, you can go into a bike studio with 100 bikes in it, with a 20-metre screen, and you can be in a class where you're riding through cities on other planets or cities in the future. It's all incredibly sort of gamified CGX stuff. So things have changed, but we still have kind of a long way to go, I think, for the gym to kind of compete with sports. And gamification is maybe something that will change that over time. We'll see, I guess. When I talk to people in the fitness industry, I say, what business are we in? And so I don't know if any of you are working in recreation centres around the country or anything like that, or probably you're a level higher than that. But what business are you in? Think about that for a minute. And mostly the answer that I get is, we're in the exercise business. And I say, well, okay, so if we're in the exercise business, then why do people go to gyms? Because they can exercise in their living room or in a local park or running around the block. And the answer is, the gym business is half exercise and half motivation. We're half in the motivation business, and so much of it is about that. And group exercise is kind of the sharp end of motivation. You've got all that stuff. You've got the music and the crowd energy and the teachers and maybe some creative sort of experiential environments that people are starting to make for people to exercise in more and more. And what we did was when we started group exercise in 1980, we had some teachers who were really great and some teachers who weren't so great. And so we got the best teachers, a lot of whom might have come out of sports or dance, the creative industries, and we got them making the classes. And we created this system where everybody would learn the classes that were made up by the best teachers. And we developed that over the years. We would get the best teachers in New Zealand and the best teachers in Australasia, and then now we have the best teachers around the world, and we have 25 branded programs, and each one of those has a choreography squad who creates one class every 3 months, and they will iterate and reiterate every one of those classes for 3 months to try and create just the maximum magic per minute to create obviously a great workout. We've got a lot of exercise science people and a lot of universities around the world, university PE departments who we work with, but trying to create just the best possible experience. So we've created this weird little niche business around it's a quality assurance model, really, where we can say to gyms, you're always going to be able to guarantee that your participants are going to have a wonderful experience when they come to the gyms. And we spent a lot of time developing a teacher training system, which was partly based on sports coaching and partly based on performing arts and on communication, and sort of mashed all that together. And we developed what is pretty widely recognised throughout the world as the gold standard in training group fitness, group exercise instructors. And that worked really well for us in New Zealand at first through the 80s, and then we went into Australia in the early 80s, and that was tough. We sort of had this thought that we've created this great system and we're going to take it throughout the world, and we went to Australia, and the very first country that we went to was very, very tough. Going going through any country is difficult, but I think sometimes Australia is tougher than others. And it was not an easy place to start, and we struggled with that. Finally, sort of by the late 80s, we were starting to do okay in Australia. We lost a lot of money there at first, and one of our gyms, we had a little handful of gyms in New South Wales, and one of our gyms was rated the best gym in Sydney, and we were starting to do well, and then boom, we went public. We went public. We went on the share market in 1984, and then all of a sudden the share market crashed in 1978. Our parents, my parents, had sold the business 1 month before the share market crashed. They'd sold the business, and all of the people who'd taken us over, the investment companies and property companies who had formed this sort of little group to take us over, went out of business. And I had to, Jackie and I decided that we wanted to buy the businesses back. We didn't want to let the gyms close. Mum and Dad had sort of got out of the business and gone into politics. And so we borrowed a lot of money to buy the gyms back, and we had to sell our Australian gyms as part of that. And that was kind of, felt like that was the end of our international dream, of our international possibilities, and took about 7 years really to sort of claw our way out from under that debt burden, and to sort of start thinking about doing something internationally again. And we did, but we used a different business model this time. Instead of saying, all right, we're going to have the same experience that we had in Australia, and we're going to go and set up our own offices and our own staff in every country, we said, we'll use independent distributors. And one of our gym owners who was licensing our classes in Australia had been a New Zealand swimming rep, and he was a national coach under Forbes Carlyle at the Institute of Sport in Canada, Canberra. And he said, yeah, I'll take on the national agency for Australia. I love this. These classes are incredible in our clubs. And one of his partners was big Mal Meninga, captain of the Kangaroos. And they did a really good job. And we said, okay, this model works. And we went around the world finding distributors, finding agents to represent us, people that already were well established. And we had some pretty interesting experiences there. We had some really, really terrible people. We had a guy who was who was a professor of ethics and morality in Italy, who was our Italian agent. He turned out to be the most dishonest person I'd ever come across in my life, and claimed when we tried to terminate him that he was involved with the mafia and that they would get us. And we had a few others like that. We had a guy in Brazil who just never paid us and never paid his taxes and never paid his staff or his partners or anybody. But we had some wonderful, wonderful people. We had some of the ones who we would least have expected to be great. We had a French Olympic wrestler who had later on been a French WWF wrestler, and he had one little tiny gym in Paris. But we just liked him, and a lot of other people liked him as well. He represents us in every French-speaking territory in the world now, in about 39 countries, and just sort of a wonderful, inspirational person, funny guy who people want to follow. And we got a lot of them like that. So we kind of got that going at the same time as the world was changing. People had got sick of aerobics and the old leotards and leg warmers stuff, and people were saying aerobics is dying, we'll close our studios. And like, we'd been doing weight training classes right through the 80s. We'd been doing circuit classes and dumbbell classes, and of course body pump, our barbell class, and that, along with spinning from South Africa, and Zumba out of South America, and Taibo out of the US, were a totally different type of class. And it's sort of the whole industry changed. And so we got lucky. We had great people in all these countries to sell those to gyms, to license them to gyms, and to organise the training of the teachers and all of that. And yeah, we got lucky. We had great people, and it was the time that the world wanted something different, and it was a change of generation. And so that went very well. And then over time, sort of throughout the early 2000s, some of those people, some of the not so good distributors, we bought them back and we bought them back, and eventually we bought back about 2/3 of them, and we still have about 1/3 of our distributors who are independent around the world. The wonderful ones who do an incredible job. The guy from Australia and from France and Spain and Holland and one or two others. But in the process of sort of doing that business, we really became focused on business and we stopped innovating. And our company started to die. We really started to go downhill. And my kids were at university then, and they said, yeah, our gyms suck. They said, we don't like going to your gyms, you know, it's what our parents used to do. And so we did what my dad had done, what my mum and dad had done. And we said, okay, well, there you go. You do it. And so they created a whole bunch of new products, of new classes and new brands for Gen Z. And that was, it took off again. And they renewed a lot of our old classes, the body pumps and the body combats and the body balances. Body pump had been, you know, one of the biggest classes in the world. Well, still is, probably the biggest group exercise class in the world. But we had other classes like body balance, which is a yoga fusion class, which means that it's a mixture of different mind-body things like Tai Chi, yoga and Tai Chi and Pilates. And when we started that in the 90s, people said, you know, you can't do that. The yoga community said, you can't mix yoga with other things. You can't put yoga to music. That's a terrible thing to do. And now just about every yoga teacher in the world teaches their classes, you know, mixes some Pilates and sort of an awful lot of them teach it with music. So things have changed. But, you know, all of that sort of got old, and our children and their friends renewed it and remade it for their generation. And things, again, were going pretty well for us. We'd set a goal in the late 90s, when we sort of started to burst out in the world. We set this goal. It was 10K 3P04, and that meant that we were going to be in 10,000 gyms around the world with an average of 3 of our branded programs by 2004. And people just said, you're joking, you know, you're kidding yourself, like especially the Americans would just dismiss you like that. And we, you know, aerobics, and that started in America. That was an American thing. And even probably I thought that we were kidding ourselves a bit. It was just a big aspirational goal, but we did it. We achieved it. About 5 months late, we hit 10,000 clubs with an average of 3,000, an average of 3 programs, and we kind of changed the world, the fitness world anyway. You know, we really brought strength training to women with Body Pump was a massive thing that happened, and a lot of the other stuff that we did. We got lucky with Tybo. Tybo didn't have a business model, and we had a business model. We had Body Combat, and they just said, well, for $10,000 a year, you can use our name. And we said, well, we've got this whole, you know, this whole sort of choreographed system, this quality control system, and we'll train your teachers and all this stuff, and it's only going to cost you a couple of $100 a month. And so that's another one of our biggest programs in the world still. And things were going well through the 2010s. We got to the point where we had 20,000 gyms that we were in around the world with an average of 5 of our programs in them. So it was kind of, it had gone beyond what we'd ever even imagined. And then we got hit by the pandemic, and basically every gym in the world closed down. And it was like, what are we going to do? You know, and we had been working because part of our system was employing the best choreographers in the world. We'd also been using the best teachers in the world, and every 3 months, like originally back in the early 80s, the choreography notes would be written and people would learn their choreography off notes, and then a little bit later we started to video things pretty poorly, but over time we started to use the best teachers in the world. And if you look at, you know, the biggest video on demand exercise platforms in the world, even Peloton or Apple, they only use 1 or 2 cameras. We'll use like up to 15 cameras. We have really good New Zealand directors and camera people who have been on the Lord of the Rings and all that stuff. So we produce at a very high level of video product. And so we'd kind of been building that, and we started the technology of building an online platform in about 2000. We partnered with the biggest organization in America, and that really hadn't quite worked out. It'd been all right, not bad, but they'd signed us a partnership with us just to sell DVDs. And when we went into online video, they wanted us to go with them, but we said, no, we're not happy with this partnership. And so we're going to do it. And we gradually built the technology and the platform to be online. And we kind of, again, got lucky. Right before the pandemic, just at the end of 2019, we were finally ready to really launch big internationally and to really start aggressively digitally marketing. And we'd just done that. And then, of course, the world got locked down. And at first, it was very easy to sell on-demand video. And we managed to keep a lot of the gyms who we dealt with open around the world as well, because we'd say, we'll give you our classes free. You just keep paying us half of our royalties, and you can give the classes free to the members. And so we sort of survived the pandemic by doing that. Our New Zealand gyms did terribly. That's a different company. Les Mills New Zealand has a dozen gyms, and we had 60,000 members, and throughout the pandemic, just every time we were locked down, you could see it go down and down and down and down. Got down to 40,000 members. We're only back just over 50,000 now. So it's just sort of breaking even. We had to sell off part of the international company. ACC bought a little percentage international company to kind of keep the national company in business. So it was a struggle. And then, of course, as soon as the pandemic eased, the whole live business took off again, and you had Gen Z, which was a whole new generation of kids who were saying, actually, we don't like what you're doing. And so we hired a whole bunch of, we were ready this time. We were ready, we hired a bunch of young kids, and we knew sort of what this generation liked. We'd done our research, and that's what we're launching now. We're launching all of those programs. Really just started sort of launching them towards the end of last year. But the digital side of things, yes, it was quite good for the first year. You could buy social media advertising very, very cheaply at the beginning of 1920, early through there, and so we could profitably buy, if you like, subscribers online. And so our subscription business grew and grew and grew. And then really within that first year, the price of social media advertising started going up. And it sort of went from about $20 a subscriber that you could buy it to kind of 50, 60 to sort of 90, 100 to 150. And then it became unprofitable. And we in 1922, we lost about $25 million on online fitness. And we did well to lose that, because Peloton lost billions and billions and billions of dollars. They went from being a $50 billion company to being worth basically nothing, and they're trying to figure out how they can sort of sell themselves these days. So if we're talking about digital, it's difficult. It's hard, and it's a competitive game. I think that there probably is a model somewhere out there, but really nobody is making money in that $10 to $50 a month kind of bracket. I think the model is something different to that. I think that you can, if you do something really good, you can get a huge audience on YouTube. There are about 70 million people in the world paying for digital fitness subscriptions right now, and there are about 700 million doing it free. Most of those are doing it on YouTube. And you can get a lot of people looking at you on YouTube if what you're doing is good enough. But you don't make much money. There's like the top 1% of people on YouTube who really make a decent profit. And even some of the pretty well-known ones who are sort of in the top couple of percent, the best known one in fitness right now, free fitness on YouTube is maybe making, just a salary, a reasonable salary, and that's all. So the digital fitness online game it's difficult, and we're looking for a business model that works, and that's where it's at. But we're back to live, and we're launching a whole bunch of wonderful new programs, and wish us luck. I think it's going to work. I think it's going to be fine. We're already sort of really on the way back with our live business, and I think it's going to be fine. I want to say in closing, really, well, before questions, anyway, that probably the best years of my life were in sport, and when we first opened my parents opened their first gym, it was all sports coaches. It was all passionate sports coaches, track and field coaches, weight training coaches, gymnastics coaches, martial arts, and those people who I worked with in the gym as a young person really inspired me and created an incredible passion for me that has lasted forever. I love what I do. I'm absolutely passionate. I love being in the fitness business. I love being in fitness really more than I love the business side of it. I love the fact that what we do is we bring physical and mental health to people, which is so badly needed in these somewhat dark times, that we bring community and we bring a little bit of magic and joy to their lives. And so I wish you all the best with the wonderful work that you are all doing in that field. It's so important what we do. Good luck to us all.
Thank you so much, Philip. We've probably got a couple of minutes for questions. One that we've got here is from Ed, just wanting to know what percentage of consumption is online rather than in your gyms, and how do you see that percentage moving?
For us, it's about 2 to 1 in the gyms to online, and because we're in 22,000 gyms around the world now, just tens and tens of millions of members, and that was kind of what gave us the right to win online, was the fact that those gyms promoting our classes at the grassroots. I think an awful lot of the people who joined us, especially in the beginning online, were people who had done the classes in the gyms, and who so yeah, it's about 2 to 1 right now, but it's the gym side of things I think is going to, for now, grow faster than online. But as I say, we're still looking for an online model that is somewhere between, we charge $30 US a month right now, somewhere between that and free. I'm hoping that there's a sweet spot where we will be able to.
Also, just finally, to wrap things up, we've heard a lot this morning around technology, around AI, around data and apps, etc. But you've managed to keep the legacy part, a big part of the business. We saw it in that 4-minute video just before you came on to speak. So how have you managed to keep that and continue to connect with a new audience, with new generations, but keeping that legacy piece in there as well?
Sure, thank you. I think a big part of that is you have to employ young people. And with tech, you have to employ tech people. During the pandemic, we hired too many. We hired just a huge number of great tech people, and that's accelerated the company in all sorts of good ways. We had to lay some of them off just recently, earlier this year. Only about 45 people who we had to lay off. Most of them we managed to shift into the live business, and that's been really helpful for us on the live side of things. But yeah, we've all got to do tech. It's just more and more part of the world, and it's hard to get really, really great tech people in this country. All the different types of tech, from digital marketing to engineering. It's hard, and we just have to work at it. And a lot of people want to live in a wonderful country like ours, and we've managed to get some some clever Americans and others who have preferred to sort of sit out Donald Trump presidencies and things like that.
Well, Phillip, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. Also, when you figure out how to monetise your business on digital, can you let TVNZ know? That'd be really lovely. Thank you. Jim, Alice would just like to present you with a small gift, but congratulations on an incredible legacy, and thank you for giving us an insight into the phenomenon that is Les Mills. Please put your hands together for Phillip Mills.